and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Last night, TYT acknowledged that direct message that Anna Kasparian sent to Jimmy Dore. This has been a crazy conversation. So let's.
It's
go
crazy.
ahead.
It's like I'm sure somewhere they're like, man, we really should have not talked about an independent journalist being corrupt on our post game show. That seems to be where this all started. I mean, it's not where it all started, but where it's all. That's the AZ5 button.
Yeah, that is. And look, let's face it. TYT, those two hosts, Anna and Jank, said that Aaron Mate works for the Russians and that he works for Syria. And the thing is,
I know we have this tweet set as last. Can we show it first? I think the good summary would be good.
Oh, good. But let's actually pull up that last tweet for this segment up, then, if we can. The very last one. So let's actually get that set up.
We found this one very recently.
So first, shout out to Primo Radical, because this is where we found this. Just to review, in the past week, the Young Turks have claimed that Aaron Mate is paid by both Putin and Assad. 2, hinted that both Glenn Greenwald and Max Blumenthal are as well. 3, accused Roger Waters of sexism. And 4, claimed that Jimmy Dore is a serial sexual harasser. Hashtag the TYT Meltdown. But plus, on top of that, too, last night on yesterday's show, at the very end, I noticed 3 tweets. Jank still is wagging his finger at all those who supported forced to vote. So that's another thing, too, that should be added in there.
That's where we got in on this is, as you guys know, we've talked about this before when we've talked about this. We're sort of uniquely in this spot where we've worked with both Jimmy and TYT. And it just, we've tried very hard for the last few years to, touch on stuff when it happens, when it's issue-based, but it's just gone off the rails, and TYT is just collapsing.
And the thing is, I think we'll talk about it later about just the whole accusations that's going on between Anna Kasparian towards Jimmy Dore and vice versa. Let's pull up this first tweet, though. And again, look, here's a tweet from Jimmy Dore in acknowledgement to that video that was about him. The 2 people in this video are accusing me of inappropriate conduct because I criticize their horrible journalism and shady business practices. Here's the appropriate work environment they created at TYT. For years, they produced a segment, Can You Spot the Camel Toe? If we want to, you could play that video, so let's go ahead and do that, just so we can get an idea.
I'd like to begin the entertainment segment by asking you to identify the camel toe.
Oh boy.
Okay, so we have obtained a photo of a celebrity's camel toe. It is a close-up, so I'm off the kids if they've never seen a gine. Let's go to the picture.
Gine.
Let's do a little close-up.
Okay.
Who's camel toe?
Oh, for the love of God.
Take a wild guess.
All right, bring me back to the non-close-up. I've had enough with the close-up. That's interesting. Who is that? Huh. Okay, I got it. I don't even know what sexy is. What is that?
It's like saying sexy.
Oh, sexy.
Okay.
Okay, I got it.
It's Kim
she's
Kardashian,
a
everyone.
brunette
It's
from
Kim
what I can
Kardashian.
see.
Pay attention to the surroundings.
Dance studio. She's got wide hips. Is she on Dancing with the Stars? All right. Is she on Dancing with the Stars? I don't know who's on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, it's right at the tip of your tongue and you don't even know it.
I know, except I don't know who's on Dancing with the Stars.
You have to make a wild guess before.
Damn it! I don't know. I'll go Shannon Doherty.
Okay, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian's camel toe.
Huh, that's interesting. Let me check
Not
that out
only
again.
does she have rear, she has front butt as well.
Oh, of course. She's the one with the wide hips. Of course! Oh.
And she is on this season's Dancing with the Stars.
Okay. There we go.
And I forget what was the comment that they were worried with Jimmy. That nice news skirt. I think. They're basically the same statement.
Nice news skirt.
By the
right.
way, I want to give a shout out to someone in chat who I thought had a great comment on this, and that was I think I might have lost it. It is from LW. Where is that comment? Oh yeah, who does camel toe content? Question mark. LOL.
Look. Here's the thing. I know that TYT did a lot of that kind of stuff back in the day. They were fun. Look, there's some points where they did some cringe stuff.
You've said it a bunch. Yeah. They really wanted to be a version of Howard Stern.
Yeah. Well, okay, if you're going to do Howard Stern stuff, you're going to do shocking stuff.
And if you're going to do Howard Stern, and if you're going to do that, you're going to create a culture. And I also want to just put out there that in the time frame they're talking about, it's not like TYT hasn't had I wouldn't maybe say a litany. They're not quite cable news, but there's been a number of sexual assault allegations that have occurred under TYT's umbrella. And
other questionable things too.
That Cenk has seemingly, for the most part, I don't think there's actually a single time I remember that by the end of something he's actually done something about that. In fact, because I remember when he did the video, he said, "Well, if I had realized that Jimmy had this attitude, I would have fired him." At the same time, when Cenk was doing the same stuff, and a bunch of other people who were actually doing it were not being punished. So,
all right. So let's pull up this next tweet then, right here. Again, this is from Jimmy Dore. TYT's response to criticism was to McCarthy smear award-winning anti-war journalist Aaron Mate. Now they're desperate to change the narrative after their feeble attempt at blackmailing me. Again, here's an example of the work environment that these two smear merchants created. And this is a link to a YouTube video. We're not going to play it, but, Amanda Cunning, real talent or just big tits. And look, they did a lot of video segments like that. Some of them were funny, I'm not going to... That's the content they had on their YouTube channel. That's something a lot of people in the early days of TYT consumed. That's when going on YouTube used to be the Wild West. There used to be a lot of more controversial, more raunchy videos up there until the censorship and more corporate parties got involved.
Even though, and again, we defended Cenk when this happened. Because again, I'm trying to make the point that we been following this as much as we can, as evenly as possible, and we defend when he got kicked out of Justice Democrats for that very chauvinistic paper that he wrote when he was in Miami.
Yeah.
And it's like we said that he shouldn't have been done for that, but again, I hate hypocrisy. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Do something wrong consistently. Don't do good, or it just gets under my skin.
Yeah.
So don't say all of a sudden years after Jimmy Dore has left your network, all of a sudden these need to be talked about right now, when I think that the thing that got it for me was, again, what Jimmy covered with the DM that was sent to him the other day, which was, it wasn't framed as, you've hurt me for a very long time, and I've wanted to move past it, and this is making it too hard, and I just have to talk about it. And you sexually... That wasn't what it was. She said, I don't like that you're basically taking away our views, taking away our subscribers, taking away our Patreon or the TYT membership supporters. And so, therefore, I'm going to come after you with this.
Yeah, and
that doesn't feel real to me.
And again, when Jimmy Dore read that direct message, when he had Max Blumenthal on his show, look, that tweet that Anna wrote to him, I'll be generous here, it tiptoes on the line of blackmail, but it looks like it, the way it's worded out and everything that it is. I mean, if it was just this bad, but we have to remember that TYT, before 2016, there was a different work environment there. The content was way more different. They did a lot more controversial videos back in the day. But it's really odd how they're kind of wagging their finger at a lot of people, especially that are criticizing them for how they at first smeared Aaron Mate. I mean, if you're going to say that an award-winning journalist is being paid by Russia or Syria, which, mind you, good luck Russia and Syria and paying Aaron Mate, because they got sanctions.
Syria doesn't have any money.
Yeah, Syria doesn't have any money. Russia has sanctions on it too. Syria has a buttload of sanctions on it.
Yeah,
so you have to show proof. You have to show proof and evidence. That's number one for any journalist to do, and not use doctored images or doctored or edited videos on Twitter. Again, when Anna shared that one video that said Aaron Mate, that was edited in a way where Aaron Mate was saying that Assad was a hero.
They took a doctored video and played it to defend themselves from doing. By the way, I want to put out after my own heart of a comment from Loomis 2459. Smart rulers adjust their rhetoric to retain their keys. Is it really hypocrisy or reacting to your constantly shifting structure of power needs? That's couldn't have put it better myself. And then it's like we're talking about it as if we're taking what they're saying seriously and showing that if we fit what they're saying into the structure that they have built themselves, the piece does not fit.
Yeah.
And so exactly, Loomis has it exactly right. Thank you. This is Rules for Rulers all over again. Go watch it afterwards. This is what's really happening is, like I said before, TYT is just falling apart. They're rapidly losing viewership. Their money that they're bringing in is really contingent on them being able to control or because we know where their money is coming from. We know that millionaires are getting it. We know that they're being paid to broadcast on TV. That's where their money's coming from, but that's only useful if people are actually watching. And even though they're getting YouTube preferential algorithm, it's not enough if your content is bad, especially if you built millions of subscribers on a channel that was progressive content that no longer is. It's what's happening is Jimmy Dore is now a larger presence. He doesn't have as many subscribers as they do, but he's a larger live stream presence than them. And a lot of people a lot of people used to like both TYT and Jimmy, and a lot of them are moving over to Jimmy. And TYT is trying to cut that away so they stop hemorrhaging.
Right. And another thing, too, to bring up, in that video in which TYT was confronting Jimmy Dore, they said one word that I knew was a kiss of death for them, and that is, if you support Jimmy Dore and you watch us here on TYT, we don't want you here. We want you gone. I don't know if you watched that video in its entirety, but they said it not once, but more than twice on that video. We don't want you here. Unsubscribe. Don't be a member. When you tell people that, that's like, again, more fuel for the fire for people to abandon ship. And the thing is, I understand a lot of people.
And again, they're not even saying if they're not even saying, hey, look, if you like both of us, but you're upset at us for whatever.
Yeah.
They're saying if you just happen to like Jimmy Dore, you're not welcome here. And again, if that's the thing they're saying, we already know they've lost most progressives anyway since 2016. Their remaining audience is continually being pushed more and more towards the official center, the extreme center positions on TV. So when they say that, how I would take that is, stop asking us to change for you, which is the kind of the criticism we have on most of the people in Congress and the presidency right now that we talk about here on this channel. So TYT is fitting in, just not in the spot that they want to talk about. They're fitting in mainstream media. They have the sexual, think of it like TYT has the same sort of sexual harassment culture that, I'll let you go.
Right. So, again, I want to give a shout out to Kira Elliott. Kira McCown is in the house. She's one of our moderators as well. She said, I watched it, Kit Cabello, as if folks can't handle both shows. So here's the thing. Here's our philosophy right now. Well, I understand a lot of people have commented on, especially on social media, this is childish, but this is a case study. No pun intended, it's a case study QB. But this is a case study of what happens when a channel decides to go over the edge. I want to add a little more because we got a couple more tweets we have to bring up. But it's very important that when you become a big channel like this and you start dictating to people, hey, don't watch us, or then you start instigating or making false claims about award-winning journalists, you're inviting a disaster because you need to show proof. If you're going to say that Aaron Monte or Glenn Greenwald or Max Blumenthal are being paid by Syria or Russia or whoever, you need to show receipts. You need to show evidence. You have to show proof. TYT for a very long time has said that they are a journalistic outlet. Now, I think this whole big fighting is one big disaster, and it's going to show a sign of what's going to happen in 2022. But TYT did this. They're the ones that fired the first shot. And when you make a statement like that about Aaron Monte, they had two choices. Either one, apologize and realize, hey, we didn't mean to say that. We're very sorry.
Or double down.
Yeah, or double down. They chose to double down. They made that decision. Cenk and Anna and TYT chose to double down and keep on smearing Aaron Monte, and then later Glenn Greenwald, Max Blumenthal, and then Jimmy Dore. And this is something that they did themselves. No one did this. And, of course, if they're going to instigate this stuff towards Aaron Monte, Max Blumenthal, Glenn Greenwald, and Jimmy Dore, those four will push back and keep on pushing back because they have proof on their side. They have evidence on their side, and TYT has lost the narrative. Let's bring up this next tweet from Cenk. If we can.
Here we go.
So here we go. I found this one very interesting as well. For all progressives who wanted Bernie Sanders and AOC and Justice Democrats to block bad bills pushed by corporate Democrats, are you now giving giving them credit when they do. I've been a consistent. Pressure folks from the outside when it's appropriate and give them credit when it's earned. Okay, so here's a big problem with that, Jank, especially when you're tweeting this stuff out and instigating fights with award-winning journalists. Number one, you were critical in helping derail the Force the Vote movement. That Force the Vote would have gotten again, if TYT was able to use its weight, which obviously it's nothing, it's non-existent. If they were able to really use their weight, I'm pretty sure the Surrender Squad, all those 15 congressmen and women on the Force the Vote petition, could have formed a strong voting bloc. But sadly, none of those progressives that you've interviewed on your show in the past have returned back on your show.
Recently. They've kind of stopped going to TYT as well.
Exactly. So the sad fact is that you're talking about putting pressure. The Democrats who ran on $15 minimum wage, the Democrats that ran on Medicare for all of that, none of those promises are being followed through on, and it's corporate Democrats that are derailing it. Yeah, you could point at Republican lawmakers, of course. It's easy to do that. It's easy to say the Republican lawmakers are derailing progressive policies, but when you have senators like Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Sinema and those 6 other corporate Democrats that were key in derailing the $15 minimum wage increase, what pressure are you talking about? The whole thing was forced to vote for 15. It never happened, and the representatives in the House, the progressives in the House, did not fight for that $15 minimum wage increase. What power do you have? And not to mention, let's really talk about pressure. You ran as a Democrat, and even after they smeared you, you still bent the knee to the Democrats, nonetheless, and said to everyone, vote for them after what they did to you, after what the Justice Democrats did to you. That's downright pathetic. Let's bring up this next tweet.
I just want to also just throw in there that I remember one of the first times, again, we don't really, at this point, it's a real news story because, again, this is about the largest progressive media operation collapsing and what's going to come of it next. But it reminds me back when we were covering Tulsi Gabbard in the primary when she was running. And again, our general take was very much, hey, that's not an accurate story. Let's just correct this, what's actually happening. And so it was the whole thing that Anna did. It's amazing that it turns out that every single enemy of Anna Kasparian also happens to take money from Russia. Just ask Anna Kasparian. And I think, who said it in here? There was someone that had a very nice comment I liked that was, there it is, from Lawrence Johnson. I still think that Cenk was only mildly irritated by Aaron Mate, and then Anna jumped on it and dragged Cenk off the cliff with her. Yeah. Again, it's like, wait. Maybe.
Wait. Before we pull up the next tweet, because I think we do need to start wrapping this segment up. Because look, I find this study of TYT falling apart very interesting. Their meltdown. Lee Camp, Jimmy Dore, everyone else has been talking about it on social media because this is an example of what not to do should you ever have a successful YouTube channel or Rockfin or Odyssey channel. Just want to diversify the options out there. Mm-hmm. So if any of you watching, any of you ever choose to do a show of your own, this is an example of what not to do and how not to shoot yourself in the foot. The sad fact is about TYT is that they had potential, and of course, dragging Aaron Mate around, saying that he's getting paid by Russian Syria. I was going to say cereal. I can't believe I screwed that up.
That kills a lot.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, serial killer. Yeah, there we go. But the whole thing is you need to show proof. And I'm glad you brought up Tulsi because the thing is, the story about Tulsi Gabbard going to TYT Studios at the time was that she went in, apparently, according to Anna Kasparian, when she did that video, that Tulsi went in there and demanded only to be interviewed by Cenk, which I find interesting because Tulsi did some back-to-back interviews with Nico House and Convo Couch, Kim Iverson, Jimmy Dore, Joe Rogan, and a few other channels.
Yeah, again, like
you have to show proof.
Again, it's like the same thing we were talking about before with this. It's the piece doesn't fit the rest of the puzzle. Either Cenk allowed Tulsi to walk all over him and everyone else at the studio in dictated terms in an interview that was very, very negative, and then scheduled another one a week later, or Anna Kasparian wasn't accurate and was just kind of shooting from the hip and wasn't speaking rationally on the subject. Again, it's a very consistent pattern that we've now really has been developed with Anna Kasparian of saying stuff that just isn't accurate to feel better and morally be best. I don't know how to put it.
Be best. There you go.
It's very, very sad, and it's destroying TYT.
So let's pull up this next tweet, and this has to deal with, again, the whole force the vote, because this is another thing that Cenk Uygur keeps on bringing up and tries to put people down who supported it. Look, I supported force the vote for Medicare for all, and I even supported Cenk Uygur's force the vote for 15.
Again, I feel like, we're very consistent. We're very issue-oriented. So when Cenk does something right, we're going to say, yep. And if he doesn't, we're going to say no, just like it said.
So, again, the whole thing with both force the votes for Medicare and $15 is that the progressive Democrats never fought for it. So let's read this first tweet right here. Corporate media and Democrats say there are no circumstances under which progressives forcing a vote makes sense. Hashtag force the vote leaders say it makes sense in every circumstance unless they're not getting credit for it. Okay, again, force the vote was not Jimmy Dore's idea. It's DSA's idea. Answer is obvious. It makes sense in some circumstances.
That's a nice way of saying maybe.
Yeah. So, again, let's pull up that tweet right there. Cenk, can you please address this? Can we scroll down? What is the distinction in your mind? You are giving Dore and his fans so much ammo against you by not talking about it. And it has to deal with, again, just the inconsistencies at TYT. So let's pull up this next tweet right here. So it made perfect sense to force the vote on $15 minimum wage because we could have won that vote with more public pressure. Curious. Plus, we got to find out who the 8 corporate Democrats against it were.
Okay, wait, before you go, I want to just point out that Cenk and Sam Cedar and all those wonderful friends that flipped sides on Force the Vote, their biggest comment against it was, what a waste of time to ever do Force the Vote if you're only going to figure out what Democrats you can run against. Remember that?
Yep.
And now Cenk's like, that's a great idea. Now we know the people that we should run against. I'm genius.
Like it went, and again, let's say Force the Vote for Medicare for All did somehow get on the House floor for a vote, and the House representatives chose not to vote for it. It would have shined a light on the heartless Democratic and Republican lawmakers that chose not to give their constituents Medicare for all at the height of a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, how could you possibly get the American people motivated to have health care in a pandemic? That's ridiculous.
So let's actually read the last part of that right there. Again, he goes on to say, it makes no sense in Pelosi vote where you could have no progressive running against her. Well, correction, there were progressives. They just never chose to take the initiative to run against her. And 2, remember, it was TYT that was pushing that false narrative of how McCarthy would have become the Speaker of the House, even though that would not have happened. That's not how it works at all. So let's read the last one. So there we go. I want to get that right. I think that's the same thing. There was one more.
Anyway, so as we get that one.
Right, that's the one right there.
Is that the one right there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that one.
On the infrastructure bill, of course, you force a vote on Biden's version of the bill that he doesn't even believe in because it'll show the Democrats who are never going to vote with us. And alternative is a GOP bill that sucks. Okay, so
voting again. So we're in a pandemic. People are out of work. A lot of people are actually taking unemployment insurance that's been extended for quite a bit of time. So ironically, if you really think about it, especially compared to a Medicare for All vote, minimum wage bill isn't actually the strongest thing to force the vote on if we're talking between the two of them, because so many people are just out of work. So minimum wage doesn't really hit them in that very same moment that they're in. Infrastructure, too. Infrastructure is a long-term building of stuff. And again, the budget's too small anyway for it to really be that impactful. So if it does happen, people go, that's infrastructure. And that's even harder to get in people's minds when they're in a pandemic mindset. But the one thing that they were so sure on would be the worst thing to vote on under a force of the vote mindset would be the thing that's most relevant to what Americans are going through in the current moment, at least when it was happening.
And the thing is, there was a small window where Cenk was for force of vote until Anna basically said that Jimmy Dore was a bad faith actor. She tweeted that out. Look, final nail for this story, and that is this. TYT used to be that bastion of independent news, used to be that leader. But if they're going to be doing smear attacks against journalists, if they're going to be doing smear attacks against people who are out there on the ground reporting stories and have awards and evidence to back them up, it really calls into question the integrity of the Young Turks and whether or not they really have what it takes to truly be a source of information and news. Because now they're making things very personal. They're going after other content creators.
They came after us, and we didn't really do anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like all this time we've had our own personal biases. We've been trying very hard over the years to just be as objective as we possibly can, even though we've been seeing it move in this direction for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. So, nonetheless, this story is not even over yet. I mean, there's going to be this huge back and
Jimmy's
forth.
going to do another show. There's going to be we're going to. It's a shame, but at the same time, I think that at least I'll say it. TYT no longer really holds
the power.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hold the support. It doesn't hold the power. We know TYT, or at least I know TYT. I shouldn't speak for everyone. It is technically my opinion. TYT has definitely made themselves an authoritative news channel from the eyes of YouTube. That's the only reason that they're at the spot. They were first to do the format. And again, like I said before, there are so many people such as ourselves. We were talking about our own news format, and we sort of want to move away from our current format, even just because we just don't want to be associated with TYT in the long run.
Yeah.
And so that's something we're thinking about in the background as well, just because we want to always practice what we preach.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So at the end of the day, this is an example and something that we need to be taking notes on. If you ever choose to become a content creator yourselves, learn from TYT's failures. Learn from the fact that they made this very personal, and this all could have been avoided if Cenk and Anna actually apologized to Aaron Mate as soon as that video was made public.
yeah, that's the other thing about this, that it's not like this is just a fight that happened out of nowhere. First of all, it's been brewing for a very long time. And again, I also want to just reiterate the thing I said the other day. How many news channels, or how many channels in general, have had so many channels spin off from being connected with them that don't like working with them? Like Jimmy Dore, they're like really upset at Jimmy Dore because he's very quickly outpacing them with a fifth of 20% the subscribers that they do, and he's just getting double live stream. I remember that moment when it first happened where Jimmy and TYT were the same. That was a couple months ago. I mean, it's last year, but it was a couple months ago that they were at the same level. And now Jimmy's getting twice what they are. It just feels like if you're in a business position that they are, you've built this company, you have all this stuff that you've done, you have your employees, you have these connections, they're terrified that they're just falling out of favor in a meritocracy. That's the catch. YouTube, as flawed as it is, as much as we complain about it, as much as YouTube demonetizes us, there is still a meritocracy because you still have to choose to click on a video. And like with us, you can't find our videos if you don't know we exist. TYT, they're going to be suggested. That's, even with all those advantages, they're not handling it, and they're terrified. Cenk and Anna, I'm sure, have because they have ownership in the company. They're going to lose a lot of net worth if TYT goes under. They don't have as far as I can tell, they don't have a second. They just started throwing out a bunch of new news channels that are never going to grow up fast enough. They're in a sinking ship, and they're basically pointing out at the sharks going around it and going, it's their fault the ship is sinking. The sharks are there.
I like your first analogy.
It's the whale analogy.
Yeah, the whale
Okay, fine, I'll go with the whale analogy. The sharks are going around, and then people are on a boat looking at that, and they're like, why are those sharks harassing that whale? No, it's because the whale's dying. The sharks are going to feed. The other fish are going to feed. The creatures at the creatures at the bottom of the ocean are going to feed on the biomass of that whale. It's just what's happening with TYT. So again, it is a news story. It's immensely impactful to the ecosystem of progressive news. And there will be a moment, there will be a time after TYT is truly gone and something else replaces them. And we have to be as critical with what it replaces. But at this point, their time is limited.
Exactly.
Especially with the overhead. Imagine the cost they have.
I don't even want to think about it. But I think as another note too, look, TYT, if you're going to be calling out the journalistic powers of Aaron Mate and Glenn Greenwald and Max Blumenthal, let's not forget that you guys took that $20 million in Katzenberg cash. Why don't you send out investigative journalists? Why don't you send out teams out there to cover the election in Peru or what's happening in Syria? You know, do something with that money. But I don't know what you guys did with all that money, but it's not looking good. And this story is still ongoing, and the meltdown still continues. Don't push the AZ5 button, folks.